Well, happening today, President Biden is set to sign an executive order, effectively turning away thousands of immigrants at the southern border. The order caps the number of immigrants allowed to enter the U.S. at that entry point at 2,500 a day. The move could have an immediate effect since crossings right now average 3,500 per day. Coming up in our next half hour, we have team coverage. Our political correspondent will join us from Washington, D.C. with a look at the political timing of the decision, and we'll look at how the order impacts the immigration response here in Denver.
The only former Aurora police officer or first responder to be convicted in the death of Elijah McClain is now asking for a change to his sentence. Randy Rodema wants to be moved to house arrest, and Denver 7's Adria Irahita joining us live to talk about this morning. Adria, he says he fears being attacked in jail right now.
Yeah, Rodema was sentenced to 14 months in jail for work release and 4 years probation. And Nicole, he says that fear, in addition to being depressed in jail and having a hard time sleeping or eating, is the reason he wants to move to house arrest. The motion was filed on May 29th by Rodema's defense attorneys, who say he suffers from PTSD related to time served in Iraq, struggles with anxiety, paranoia, and depression, and has been the target of physical attacks more so than other inmates. Rodema's sentence began in mid-March. He was the only officer convicted in Elijah McClain's death. Former Aurora police officers Jason Rosenblatt and Nathan Woodyard were acquitted on all charges. 2 former paramedics were convicted for their roles in the death of McClain. Since Rodema is on a work release program, he would only likely serve 7 months of his 14-month sentence. His defense attorneys argue that house arrest would result in a longer sentence, according to documents obtained by our partners at the Denver Post.
If you look at what happens every day in our courts and how many of these motions are filed regularly by folks looking for some sort of sentencing relief, this is not the type of motion I would anticipate be granted. But again, we're in kind of a different state of play.
The Denver Post reports that the Colorado Attorney General's office objected to the motion in a filing on Monday. It says the district court does not have the power to decide on this case since Rodema appealed his conviction to the Colorado Court of Appeals. There's a status review set for June 20th in Adams County, and Nicole, Rodema's attorneys did not respond to our request for comment.
All right, well, we will see this case obviously continuing. Thank you, Adria. The man accused of killing 10 people at a Boulder King Soopers will be back in court today for a motions hearing. He has pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity for the 2021 mass shooting. A judge ordered another competency evaluation ahead of trial, which is expected to start in September.
Your time is now 6:06. Organizers hoping to save a family farm in Brighton are inviting supporters to a special city council meeting tonight at 6. We checked, and this specific issue is not on city council's agenda. But here's some of the background on this current situation. The Parkland Metropolitan District wants to take over part of Polizzi Farm to create a system of pipelines that would move water to support a future housing development nearby. An Adams County judge said a final decision on this issue will come no later than was supposed to come no later than May 31st. So we are still awaiting that decision. Heads up if you need help with Denver City Services today. Right now, we're working to find out more about a technology issue that's affecting the city of Denver's computer systems. We first heard about the issue yesterday, and the city told us it could impact work today. So 311 and parts of the city of Denver's website are impacted as well, but 911 calls should function as usual.
Attorney General Phil Weiser will introduce a program today to support Colorado kids' mental health. The money is coming from the state's settlement with e-cigarette maker Juul Labs. Colorado received more than $31 million from Juul for its role in the youth vaping crisis. In a release, Weiser's office reports anxiety and depression among adolescents went up by over 50% between 2010 and 2019. And Governor Polis will also sign a bill today to make a program that provides free counseling sessions for kids permanent. The I Matter program gives students access to 6 free virtual sessions. New this morning, Colorado's school counselor numbers are improving. Axios reviewed federal data and found Colorado has one counselor for every 261 students. That's actually the fourth best ratio in the country, with the national average one counselor to 385 students. Now, the American School Counselor Association is suggesting that ratio should be 1 to 250, but Colorado's getting closer to that.
Northern Colorado communities continue to recover from last week's severe storms, and tonight, Greeley City Council will vote on extending its disaster declaration for 30 days. It's currently set to expire on Friday. A storm last Tuesday brought flooding and hail. It's caused more than $1 million in damages. And severe and extreme weather is being felt across the country. Millions of Americans are experiencing a heat wave making its way through the western part of the country. The heat has helped fuel several fires. Hundreds of firefighters are on the front lines in California fighting at least 2 fires. So far, the Coral Fire just east of San Francisco has burned over 20 square miles. Experts say this is a sign of fire season starting earlier and lasting longer.
Usually we see the more intense fire activity in July, August, September. So we just want everybody to be prepared.
Parts of California, Arizona, and Nebraska are bracing for temperatures that could top 110 degrees. NOAA is predicting a 61% chance of this summer being the hottest on record nationwide. So, Katie, as we start complaining about the 80s and the 90s, we'll have to keep that in perspective.
Absolutely. When you're talking triple digits with excessive heat warnings in place for today, spots like California and Arizona, we do have the heat building here across the state. But for today, at least, it's going to be slightly cooler, at least than yesterday afternoon. Low to mid 80s, Denver into Fort Collins, 60s and 70s into the mountains. But for tomorrow, 90s set to return to the Denver area. I'll show you the full forecast when we come back.
Looking pretty good from just a moment ago. Air Tracker 7 was over I-25, Alameda, Santa Fe, and you can see we're moving along just fine here. You can see the South Platte River, the bridge reconstruction here that continues over on Alameda over top of the South Platte, and then southbound 25 going along Santa Fe, heading down for Mississippi. So a good looking commute for us so far in the south side of downtown.
Streaming music will cost you more. Which Spotify plans are seeing a price hike?
And bringing his child to work goes sideways for one member of Congress. One cute kid's funny faces stealing the spotlight from dad.
Alrighty, in 3, 2, 1. Good Tuesday morning to you, Colorado. An increasing cloud coverage, temperatures in the low to mid 80s, so still slightly above normal for this time of the year in Denver, mainly in the 60s to low 70s into Colorado's high country. So not as warm as what we experienced yesterday, then some big heat builds for tomorrow. No risk of any severe weather today, a dry afternoon, just mostly cloudy and windy. Okay, we'll do another one. In 3, 2, 1. Happy Tuesday to you, Colorado. We'll see building clouds. Any moisture out east set to taper off this morning. Gusty winds build this afternoon from the mountains to the plains. Wind gusts over higher terrain could reach up to 50 miles per hour at times. Some blustery but dry conditions this afternoon and evening in Denver, and then skies will clear by morning. Sunshine and 90s on tap for tomorrow. Okay, we'll do one more. 3, 2, 1. Gusty winds and highs in the low to mid 80s expected for this afternoon. Calmer but hotter for Wednesday and Thursday. Dry conditions, a lot of sunshine, low 90s ahead. By the end of the week, we'll introduce a chance for thunderstorms in the afternoon with more moisture and cooler weather this weekend.
Right now, Air Tracker 7 is over a commercial fire. This is burning at a building near Bayard and Broadway. And Denver Fire Department is on scene right now. You see one truck arriving at this moment. We are still trying to determine which business is affected here. We know that there was smoke and flames coming from the first floor of a building a little bit earlier. Tough to really see if that is still an impact right now. No injuries have been reported, and investigators are still trying to determine how this started. Doesn't appear to be having an impact on traffic there at Broadway and Bayard.
Let's go ahead and take a look at what's making national headlines. President Joe Biden will travel to France tonight. He'll join 25 other world leaders and World War II veterans for the 80th anniversary of the D-Day invasion. That's the day Allied troops stormed the beaches of Normandy to help defeat Nazi Germany. The president is expected to deliver a speech about Allied forces coming together to overcome dictatorships and promote freedom.
A Senate committee will hold a hearing on abortion bans across the country. They're focusing on the impact the bans are having on women's access to health care in those states. A patient from Texas, along with providers and other experts, are expected to testify. And that committee hearing comes after a combative hearing yesterday with Dr. Anthony Fauci. He testified to a Republican-led committee investigating the pandemic response.
It actually came from the CDC. The CDC was responsible for those kinds of guidelines for schools.
And you didn't feel an obligation as the lead scientist at the NIH to challenge that?
It is not appropriate to be publicly challenging a sister organization.
So Fauci came under fire for going along with a recommendation from the CDC for 6-foot distancing. That's what the lawmaker was challenging him on. He was also criticized by Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene. He reiterated his belief that the most likely origin of the COVID pandemic was animal to human transmission and denounced suggestions that he ever would have participated in a cover-up of COVID originating in a Chinese lab.
Okay, now to some congressional news that might make you smile. A Tennessee congressman made a memorable speech on the House floor yesterday, but it wasn't for anything he said. It was what his 6-year-old son was doing behind him. Here's Representative John Rose on C-SPAN. Now watch his 6-year-old son, Guy. He's smiling for the camera, making funny faces, and rounds it out with some hand gestures. Representative Rose, I know, later posted on X, "This is what I get for telling my son to smile at the camera for his little brother."
Oh, so funny.
I think he was talking directly to his little brother.
Oh, yeah, probably.
Makes C-SPAN worth watching, finally, right? Yeah.
All right, C-SPAN getting a little spicy.
Yeah.
There we go.
Oh, what a comedian there. So cute, too.
Such an adorable little guy. And if you're out and about today, I know a lot of kids are on summer break already, but today, this afternoon, it is going to be some gusty winds, dry conditions, but the clouds will start to move in this morning, though. Gorgeous shot as we give you a live look outside over the Denver area. Into the mountains, we have been picking up a few scattered light showers over higher terrain. You see those low clouds over Rocky Mountain National Park and Longs Peak there this morning. Further out across the eastern plains near Burlington, still have the possibility for a few light showers over the next couple of hours. And you can see this morning, mostly clear skies, Denver, and then out across eastern Colorado, we have been picking up a little bit of wet weather over the far northeastern plains. No risk of any severe storm activity for this Tuesday, and then we'll be seeing those gusty winds really pick up in the afternoon. So mild out there right now, no weather worries. Into Boulder at 60 degrees, same into Fort Collins. It is chilly and blustery over Berthoud Pass right now, around 32 degrees up high. But you head further to the west, Aspen and Gunnison down through Telluride, mid-40s right now. So taking us through our hourly planner for this Tuesday, daytime highs will still be slightly above normal. Typically this time in early June, we see highs right around 80 degrees. We're expecting low to mid-80s out at the airport to Boulder, Castle Rock, Pleasant in the upper 70s for a high this afternoon, and off to the west slightly cooler, but you can still see some upper 80s to near 90 degree temperatures out west in Grand Junction and nearing 90 as well over southeastern Colorado. So no severe storms or really much moisture for the rest of the day once those showers taper off. Wind gusts last recorded over Berthoud Pass into Estes Park, so pretty high right now, last recorded there at 44 miles per hour. Relatively calm conditions currently, but as we take you through the rest of Futurecast for mid-morning and early afternoon, those winds will start to increase from the west. Mostly cloudy, dry up and down the I-25 corridor and eastern plains. Wind gusts around 35 miles per hour possible over northeastern Colorado and gusty as well into the mountains. Then tonight into early tomorrow morning, skies will clear, winds will gradually calm. It'll be a pleasant start to the morning tomorrow. 30s and 40s in the high country, 50s here in town. It will warm up quickly though as we get into Wednesday afternoon. Highs will top out in the low to even some mid-90s over the plains, nearing 90 in Denver. And today, moderate for our UV index, but for tomorrow, burn time can occur in as little as 10 minutes with a lot of sunshine. Hot and dry conditions expected over the state. It'll feel a lot more like summertime than early June, and you see that reflected here on our Super 7-day forecast. Low 90s Wednesday and Thursday, nearing 90 on Friday. Better chance for storms in the afternoon, and then cooler and some wetter weather expected for the weekend, Jason.
Yeah, nice and quiet for us so far here this morning with no weather worries to worry about right now, at least on the roadways. This is over in Arvada, 52nd Ward Road. This is the southbound side, northbound side, and traffic's moving along just fine. Just a pretty shot out there in Arvada. Take a look at the drive out to the south side of town. So this is that transition. This is that big flyover transition to that ramp that takes you from southbound Santa Fe to go east on 470. Open again this morning. It was closed yesterday morning for that paving that lingered through the weekend. Take a look at the drive up to the north side of town. Very typical for us there. I-76, 270 starting to get a little bit busier, but nothing out of the ordinary with those slowdowns that I'm seeing for you right now. Tour from the airport, that looks okay. Tour from the south side of town. Again, little pockets of slowing coming down from Parker Road. This is that transition I talked about, southbound Santa Fe to 470. They were doing some paving in there. And then you can see the west side of town also nice and quiet. So no big issues for us off or on the highways right now.
Caregivers are demanding answers after a Colorado senior living facility abruptly shut down. The tight deadline to find a new place for residents to live.
We're saying enough is enough.
Social media feeds, the first of its kind law under consideration in New York State.
6:23. Lawmakers in New York are set to propose a first-of-its-kind law today. It would regulate social media feeds for kids under 18. Multiple reports say that the bill would ban social media companies from using algorithms to curate what minors see on their feeds. Instead, apps would have to show the content in chronological order only. It would also ban apps from sending alerts to those under 18 between midnight and 6 a.m. unless their parents opt in, and it would prohibit selling their data. The proposal is likely to face legal challenges amid free speech concerns.
Instagram appears to be testing ad breaks that force users to watch ads before scrolling. Users on Reddit and X report seeing unskippable 3 to 5 second ads between posts. The feature could become a regular part of Instagram, changing how users experience the platform.
Another price hike for Spotify starting next month. Premium, Duo, and Family plans will all see price increases, with the premium jumping to $11.99 a month. It marks the second increase in a year for some Spotify users.
Queer kids of color finally feeling seen at a camp just for them. How you can help more kids access this inclusive outdoor experience.
And voters are making the border one of the top issues in this year's presidential election. How President Biden's possible executive order coming this morning will play into the political landscape.
happening right now. We are hearing reports of a fire at what appears to be a self-storage facility. This is a live look from Air Tracker 7. You can see just smoke, what appears to be smoke filling the air in that area along I-70 just west of Wadsworth. Now, we are working to learn more. No reported injuries at this point, but we'll continue to update you as new information comes into our newsroom. But you can see, again, heavy smoke, possible flames at this business here.
And Jason Luber is tracking this. You have a different camera view. Is this impacting traffic? Is that smoke?
It is on the highway. Let me show you. Let me go so you can see the full screen map here, so I can show you where it is. It's right off of I-70 and Carr Street, which is a little bit off of Wadsworth. So here's Wadsworth, I-70. Carr Street is right here, and here is where that business is right there. And take a look from the CDOT camera, because the smoke is drifting from the business here over on, there's the frontage road, and then over I-70, and it is limiting the visibility right now on I-70. They also have the frontage road closed down on the north side of I-70, so that's closed for the smoke, and then I-70 is just restricted with the smoke that you can see there. I am not seeing extensive travel time delays because of the fire that is right in here, but I'll keep an eye on that for you here this morning. But you will obviously see it and smell it if you're driving on that west side of town. The rest of the drive looks pretty standard for us here, Katie. I'm not seeing any other significant big problems north, south, east, or west across C470.
Jason, thank you for that update. In terms of weather conditions across town, it's partly sunny skies right now and 64 degrees. Winds sustained from the west at 14 miles per hour. So relatively calm conditions right now, but do expect some very high winds through this afternoon and early evening. Heading out the door, Boulder, Longmont, low 60s right now, a little bit cooler down south into Castle Rock at 53 degrees. As your hours go on this Tuesday afternoon, by lunchtime, 77, mostly cloudy skies. Our daytime highs will still be slightly above normal, low to mid 80s expected. Fort Collins into downtown, into Colorado Springs. Mountain towns mainly in the 70s this afternoon. We are watching a weak front roll over northern Colorado. It's bringing a few showers over the northeastern plains. Later on today, dry, partly to mostly cloudy skies. Temperatures in the low to mid 80s. Those winds really pick up, gusts up to 50 miles per hour possible into the mountains and foothills. Blustery through early evening, and then calmer conditions tonight. Early tomorrow morning, we'll start off in the 50s, and it is going to be a very warm day tomorrow. Highs expected to soar, you guys, to the 90s here for the Denver area on Wednesday.
Now to a national story with a potentially huge local impact we're keeping an eye on this morning. President Joe Biden is expected to announce a new immigration policy severely limiting immigration at the southern border.
Yeah, similar to a bipartisan deal that has not been able to pass in Congress. And let's take a closer look at exactly what this would do. So it would cap crossings if they go over 2,500 immigrants per day. At that point, asylum seekers would be turned away. But the move would have an immediate effect, essentially, because crossings right now already average 3,500 per day. Immigrants could still request an appointment to present their claim, and unaccompanied children would be exempt from this.
So we have a lot to unpack here. We have team coverage this morning. Allie Jennerjohn will have a look at the local impact on this move. But first, let's go to Scripps News political correspondent Joe St. George in Washington, D.C. Joe, this announcement is coming 5 months before the election.
It is, but make no mistake about it, while this certainly is the biggest national story of the morning, it's a massive story locally in Denver, and I know you guys are going to dive in that in a little bit. After all, we've reported on here at Denver 7 how the migrant crisis has impacted rec center hours in Denver, for instance. But as far as this announcement from the White House today, this has long been talked about, long been teased. As you noted, really ever since those negotiations broke down on Capitol Hill, those bipartisan negotiations several months ago, and it became clear that Congress was not going to pass anything prior to Election Day. As you said, when periods of migrant crossings are high, when that threshold of 2,500 is reached, that is when the border will essentially close to asylum-seeking migrants. One thing we should be very clear on is that the legal pathway to seeking asylum will continue. For instance, there is a mobile app that exists. The White House has been encouraging migrants to use it. It can be difficult sometimes to operate and get a spot in Central America, but it is an app that certainly exists where you can begin the asylum-seeking process in your home country before making that journey to a port of entry in the U.S., sometimes a dangerous journey to the port of entry in the U.S. An important caveat here, there is a chance that this is, in fact, probably more than just a chance, that this is challenged in the courts. There is a number of asylum-seeking advocacy groups who believe that asylum should never be curtailed in this country, that it is a right for those seeking, experiencing persecution. And President Biden is using a section of federal law to justify this executive action today that former President Trump used to enact some of his controversial border measures, which were challenged by progressive groups in the courts. Yes, you noted at the top, politically, the border security is a big issue here in 2024. It may not be as big as the economy or inflation, but it certainly is peaking. This, no doubt, a shift to the right by the White House today regarding this executive action. But again, guys, the big question, will this be challenged in the courts? Will this even be allowed to take effect?
Joe St. George in Washington for us, thank you. Yeah, in fact, immigration was a top issue for voters in Colorado in recent polls. And Allie Jennerjohn joining us now. The immigration crisis, of course, has been a huge issue in Denver. Some, though, say this executive order is not the solution.
Yeah, good morning to you both. Well, Mayor Mike Johnson tells Denver 7 that he didn't even previously know that President Biden was planning to issue this executive order. We do know, though, that Denver is a major destination for immigrants arriving to the southern border from South and Central American countries. So it's possible, if this passes, that we will see a slowdown here in Denver. Common Sense Institute reports more than 42,000 immigrants have come to Denver in the last year and a half, and estimates the city of Denver will spend $180 million this year alone responding to the influx. Immigration attorney and executive director of the Colorado Asylum Center, Christina Brown, says this anticipated move by Biden is all about politics.
There's so much, let's stop people from coming in rather than let's overhaul a system so that we can comply with our domestic and international obligations to asylum seekers and make a process that people can actually get through in a timely way.
Now, Brown also says that this executive order likely won't hold up in federal court because people are allowed to seek asylum under U.S. law. And in a statement to Denver 7, Colorado Senator John Hickenlooper says the executive order is a result of Republicans boycotting, Nicole, a bipartisan deal from earlier this year.
Right. Still watching the White House website to see if that executive order comes down. Thank you.
This morning, we're breaking down another big pledge from Denver Mayor Mike Johnston. He says by the end of this year, every single veteran experiencing homelessness in Denver will be off the streets. The mayor and VA leaders say they know there are 52 homeless veterans in Denver right now, and with the right partnerships, those veterans will be in homes by December. Officials say one of the first steps to reaching this goal is working with community housing partners on how to set up more units for residents to move into.
An abrupt closure catching dozens of families off guard. Families of people who live at a senior living facility called Bellagio are now scrambling to move their relatives somewhere else. The facility in Jefferson County announced it is closing on June 13th. Tenants and caretakers were only notified on May 13th, giving them just 30 days to find somewhere else to live. Now, that amount of notice does fall in line with Colorado law, but we spoke to a woman whose 86-year-old father has dementia and has been living there since 2018. She wants to know why they didn't learn this sooner.
Being caregivers and loved ones of residents, we have a stake in it too. I consider us stakeholders in the business decision too. And we were never given a chance to even say anything until it was already over.
We reached out to Bellagio Senior Living and are still waiting to hear back.
The beginning of Pride Month coincides with the beginning of summer break and the start of summer camps for many students. This morning, I'm taking you to Camp Scene, a one-of-a-kind Colorado camp for LGBTQ+ youth of color. Scenes of green, thick sunscreen, and an abundance of activities can be found at Camp Scene.
Whether it's beauty, blinging things up, or whether, you learn about health and all those things.
The amount of bonds that you create in just 7 days is amazing.
Campers Ileana Trujillo and Aaron Michaels say Camp Scene, located in Colorado's beautiful mountains, helps kids embrace nature while also embracing each other.
Before camp, I actually had no friends being queer. I think typically around kids who aren't queer, I feel very left out.
Camp Scene was started in 2019. It is a program of youth scenes. It is our summer camp. It's a cutie BIPOC summer camp. We focus on queer youth of color, and we are the only camp nationally that focuses on queer youth of color.
Dr. Tara J. is the founder and executive director of Youth Scene.
As Youth Scene is about mental health and wellness and getting youth outside, there's a big impact on making sure that we're off the grid, we're not answering our phones, we're not answering emails, we're out in the woods.
Jay says the experience is hard to put a price on, but keeping the camp going takes money.
In December, we acquired the space that we were using for camps, so that's 63 acres of land. So we will be launching here soon a $20 million capital campaign. The majority of this is to, one, bring this up to ADA accessible because it's nowhere close. We're making sure that we have our water in place, and also making sure that fire mitigation is a thing, as we are in an area that is a very high risk.
Jay says maintaining Camp Scene means giving these kids a chance to just be kids without fear of judgment or rejection.
I've also had my fair share of experiences with not only kids our age, but with adults as well. You never know what someone's reaction is going to be, either before people find out you're queer. Getting to meet the people that you get to meet here is crazy. Never in my life have I had a lot of friends. I have.
Ileana and Aaron say at Camp Scene, they feel seen. And like any other kid at summer camp,
I didn't feel like I was weird.
they feel free to be their goofy, vibrant,
Because it's almost like we're all weird,
outdoorsy, authentic selves. Reporting in Denver, Micah Smith, Denver 7. Well, this year's camp is from July 20th to July 27th. Camp Scene is for 10 to 18-year-olds, and it never turns anyone away due to costs. Those who need help paying for camp always receive that help. And you can be a part of that. We have a donation page up for Youth Scene's summer camp on denver7.com/gives. Click on the drop-down menu and choose Support Camp for LGBTQ plus Youth of Color to make a donation. Katie?
Great story. Thank you, Micah. It'll feel more like summertime through the middle and end of the week. Right now, it's low 60s, mostly clear to partly cloudy skies here in Denver. Off to the west, mostly cloudy in the mountains. It is going to be a pretty dry day and next few days here across the state. So 60s right now, Denver through the Springs, and later on today, low to mid 80s, and the heat really builds tomorrow, Jason.
And we still build on the freeways here this morning with a lot of traffic volume, very typical stuff. This is not as typical. So this is we're looking from Wadsworth out along I-70. This is Carr Street down here, and you can obviously see the fire from that storage center that's right on the north side of I-70. So the frontage road is closed. The smoke is not drifting on I-70 as it was earlier, but you could still see maybe a restriction. You'll definitely see the smoke from I-70 between Wadsworth and Kipling.
And let's go ahead and take a look at it from another vantage point of this fire Jason just mentioned. Again, happening in Arvada. Since we last checked in on it, you can see the smoke really starting to build. Firefighters there on the roof. It appears to be they're really focusing on trying to get water on top of the flames. And again, this is happening along I-70 west of Wadsworth. Fire crews are on the scene. We'll continue to keep you updated on this developing situation as things continue to unfold.
And speaking of the traffic issues surrounding this, merging on the road doesn't have to be this hard. One driver, though, says people aren't doing it on this highway. So Jason will join us again with a reminder of the rules.
And new T-Rex fossils at a Denver museum. We'll introduce you to the 3 kids who found them.
6:45 right now. We're staying on top of a fire at a business in Arvada right now, and take a look at this. Air Tracker 7 is above the scene right now, where those flames are just shooting out of the top of a self-storage center. This is off I-70, just west of the Wadsworth exit there. And right now the building is actively involved. Right now you can see firefighters putting water on that, but that smoke is actually causing visibility issues for drivers on I-70 right now. So we'll get to Jason with that in a moment. Just a bit earlier this morning, we were also above the scene of a commercial fire in Denver near Broadway and Bayard. Denver Fire responded to this one. We're still working to determine what business was affected, but crews said that they saw smoke and flames coming from the first floor of a building. It appeared to be next door to the Voodoo Donuts on Broadway. They were able to get that under control and are still looking into how that started. We'll stay on top of both of those, though.
Yeah, lots of things affecting traffic this morning. Well, as you head out the door for the morning commute, you may be thinking about a few driving pet peeves that you have. Well, traffic expert Jason Louver joins us with this week's Driving You Crazy. And Jason, this is something you've been talking about for a dozen years.
Oh, yeah. The zipper merge, right? Because people don't know still how to use it and how to get through traffic faster. So it was Maria from Arvada who wrote to me saying, what's driving you crazy? Going up the hill on Highway 93 south of Boulder, the right lane ends before 128. I have avoided 4 accidents because people do not understand how to merge. I've had people trying to push me into the opposite lane just so they can get in front of me. Can you please explain to people the correct way to merge? Okay, you are right, Maria. Drivers don't know, or more likely, don't care about the proper way to merge. And when drivers don't let other drivers in, traffic slows down. Now, the way any merge should work depends on what lane is lost and the amount of traffic volume there is. In this specific situation, since the road sign indicates that the right lane ends, the left lane drivers have the right of way. When you're going south on 93 and you're getting close to that merge, even though it's fine for you to get into that left lane early, understand that when you do, there will still be drivers who want to go faster than you, and they will not want you in front of them. That's what I saw several times when I was out there. Someone riding the bumper right there, racing around you right before the merge. In heavier traffic, especially stop and go traffic, drivers should use